So Ashton, thank you for coming out and visit. Sorry, I lost my voice like 2 days ago. So I'm gonna try to be as normal as possible. So this podcast is kind of new. The whole thing right now is trying to get it going. It's called Positive Outlook. My upbringing is kind of the reason why I grew up in Ukraine in an orphanage since I was like 7.
Wow.
So I have a crazy story. Basically, I have 2 sisters and a brother. We ended up in an orphanage when I was 7 years old. I was the oldest of 6 kids. Lost a brother and a sister. All my family is dead. So and then kind of going through that process, being in an orphanage for like 10 years. Adoption came, intuition, and then for 7 years, nothing was happening. And then when I was 18, graduated, going through the boot camp, the judge finally said, hey, you guys can come take him. So the family flew out and took my sisters and myself and my brother. It's kind of just crazy how it happened.
Wow.
And then they happened to be LDS.
Cool.
And then being with them for 6 months in the United States, not having friends and family, and kind of be kind of fish out of water. Put it in that perspective.
And did you speak English or no?
No, that was the biggest hit that we got at the time, because I was like, okay, so I can't communicate. I don't know the culture. I have a mom and dad now. They're trying to be mom and dad to me, and I'm not ever used to that. So, long story short, my friends that I grew up with started getting locked up in prisons for things that we were doing when I was in an orphanage. Some died. Some, I felt kind of like guilty for being now on this side.
Yeah.
And I have this blessed life being in the United States, out of all countries I could be adopted to, with all my siblings. Because initially everybody wants to adopt a kid.
Right.
But nobody wants to have 4.
Yeah, all at one time.
And so, but they adopted 4 of us, along with 5 other Ukrainian kids.
Wow.
And they had 3 of their own.
Holy cow.
So
You got a big family.
12 kids.
12 kids.
So they got loaded with 8 kids in 1 year, basically from ages 12 to 18. So miscommunication was like surreal. Because then you had...
What language did your parents speak? Just English?
Yeah, just English. So you had some kids that kind of like try to point a lot and draw a lot. And so I started listening to Eminem a lot, because I'm like, if he manipulates the language and I can understand what he's talking about, I can pick this thing up real quick. School was not accepted, so I had to go through GED classes, ran into the same group of people I was used to hang out with. And so the gospel kind of came naturally to us. They were not active. They were not really preaching the gospel, but shortly after, basically came to conversion, and I went on the mission a year after.
Wow, that's awesome.
So crazy story to the whole thing too is I was adopted to Yakima, Washington. So it's like a very small town in Washington State. My experience of what the United States was supposed to be to what I got to, I'm like, it's nothing.
Yeah. Not
mom,
what you see on TV. Yakima is not what you see on TV.
Yeah, my mom's like, get in my car, I'll show you how fast it is. It's Denali. I'm like, okay. But the cool thing that happened was the biggest temple since the LDS was in Washington State, Seattle. They had the biggest ceiling altar.
Cool.
They could fit all of our family in that place.
Wow.
The only one in the United States.
Wow.
And so we were an hour and a half from it. So I'm like, okay, now I get why I'm there. But sorry. So after that, basically what happened was I lived with them for about a year because I couldn't go on the mission right after. I worked 2 jobs in the factory, making plastic bags and beer hubs, making $12 a pop for 2 hours a day. So I'm like working to pay for my mission. Left to Chicago, got back on my buddy's like, dude, you got to do sales. Like literally the day off, my buddy's like, hey, my trainer from my mission. It's like, dude, we're going to Cabo. Our company is taking us to Cabo. Like, forget your family, man. Come on over. I'm like, dude, I just got home. Like, let me just give my talk at least or something.
Yeah.
And then, so I've been with them for a little bit. And then, but they were not active when I got back, unfortunately. And then one of my buddies was getting back from the mission too. And he was like, I'm going to Utah to college. I'm like, I don't know anything about college. I was like, I have $300 I saved from my mission. I did a project for one of the members right before I left, and he just gave me money. I was like, $300, I'll pay for the gas. It's like he threw me to Utah. And then, so anyways, that's kind of the reason why this podcast basically is because of the story of like, I had a lot of negative in my life, but I find that sometimes if you attract if you attract it to positive, you find positive.
Yeah, yeah.
So I feel like a lot of people that we surround with in our lives go through that hell on earth. Just nobody knows about it. They just see what you portray to be.
Yeah.
So I think it's just the format of this podcast. I don't know who's going to be listening, how often, but it's just to let people know that there are people just like us that go through it.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious to get to know
you.
you.
Well, and the thing about your story that's so cool, if you think about the odds of you being in where you are right here today, it's really low, man. Like crazy low. Yeah. Millionth of whatever, right? Barely a chance. Yeah. But you're here. And the rarity of having all four siblings adopted at the exact same time. Yeah. From a family that doesn't speak your language. Right. Well, and then I mean all those things you just said, like, wow, dude, that's impressive.
That's after them having already the first try of their they had like 3 kids. My mom was single mom when she met my dad. She was not a member. So they had 2 boys together. And then they adopted 2 5-year-olds with complications. And so the fact that they gunned it for it again, and now group of 8 at once, like it's mind-blowing to me. So, but we had those Mormon wagons, 15 passenger van. It's crazy. A good time.
I would consider those your parents saints, man. Like in the truest sense of the word.
Great people
to do that.
Yeah, I'm super grateful, obviously, for just to get me here. I think, let alone like the love that provided for everybody, you know. But yeah. So from what I know, you have a family of your own, obviously.
Yep. Yep.
You served in New Zealand.
I served a mission in New Zealand. Yeah.
Right. So first time when I noticed you, this is a true story. Obviously, you know, we have mutual friend Dane, right? And then what's the other guy from Avalon? Runs the San Diego office, just bought a house.
John?
Yeah, John.
Yeah.
There you go. So I was watching his story, and he did haka by yourself. I was like, this guy's real deal. The fact that he can do on a stage, just go crazy at it.
Yeah.
Like, it takes guts to do it. So I'm like, I got to get to know this guy. And then when you threw the challenge 28 plus, I'm like, I got to get close.
Yeah.
So proximity, right? It's just something like that. So
there's power in that.
Yeah. So basically run me through a little bit your story. Like how did this whole thing started from where you're at now?
So I attribute a lot of my life to like 5 main things. I wasn't in an orphanage, but I was in a family of 8 kids, grew up in a family of 8 kids.
Okay.
And
where do you fall?
I'm the 4th.
Okay.
And the first 5 of us were really close in age. The oldest was 5 when my little brother was born.
Oh, okay.
So we're super close, right? Boy, and it goes boy, girl, boy, boy, boy. So, and you know, of the first 5, 4 of them were boys, but the toughest of all of us is my sister.
Of course, yes.
And she kind of had to be super tough. She used to beat up on all the boys in soccer, and she was tough, man. She played college volleyball, and then at a junior college, and then after that, she transferred to a university. And she's like, I'm gonna go try out on the soccer team. And she made the soccer team. That's just because she's crazy talented.
She's used to being challenged by her brothers.
Yeah, yeah. So. Anyway, we didn't have a whole lot growing up. We just had each other. But my dad had good jobs, good enough to like give us all the opportunities in the world. Yeah. We didn't travel. I didn't go to Disneyland until I was like 23. First time I saw the ocean was around Yakima. I was wrestling at Rick's College.
No way.
And we went to, we wrestled Yakima and who was the other college? So I can't remember if I was in Oregon or if I was in Washington. I don't remember exactly which one. But we had a trip where we wrestled these schools in Oregon and Washington. I was 18 the first time I saw the ocean. So we didn't have a lot of money to travel. We didn't have extravagant things.
With that many kids here, probably like McDonald's is like $100 just a dollar menu.
Right, yeah. And Dairy Queen was a big deal for us, you know. Right. But the thing that was awesome about it is my parents they chose to spend their money in a way where we had all the opportunities in the world. If we wanted to play violin or take piano lessons, sure. You can do that. You want to try this sport? Sure. Right. And this was pre-cell phone. I've got a picture of my mom's calendar. So my dad's working hard and my mom's calendar. And I remember days where there was like 6 soccer games or something like that, all at the same time. And my mom would get us to where we needed to go. Sometimes we'd get rides, and asking for a ride for me isn't a big deal because I needed to do that.
Yeah.
If I wanted to go do the thing, lots of times I had to call a friend and say, hey, can you come get me? Or your mom come get me. But anyway, I remember multiple times where she would like, I'm going to pick you up at that rock at 2:00. And if you're not there at 2:00, you're in such big trouble, right? Because she had to get me and then she had to go here. Anyway, so I loved growing up with a family of 8 kids. So that was a formative thing for me. I moved around a lot. I wasn't an Army brat. My dad just had different jobs, but I was born in Colorado, raised in Kansas from 1st grade to the start of 8th grade, and then moved to Montana, 8th and 9th grade, the rest of 8th grade and 9th grade.
That's
and then
when you
moved
were rooting for Chiefs.
Yeah, the Chiefs, yeah.
I saw that.
And then moved to Utah when I was a sophomore. Okay. My parents have stayed in Utah since then. So,
Gotcha.
But moving around a lot really helped me learn what it feels like to be the one, because I was the one that had no friends, that was looking for. Luckily for me, I had a brother just older than me and a brother just younger than me. So every time we moved, I was still in a school with one of my siblings, and at lunchtime I was looking for my brother. You know, like, where's my brother at? Yeah. Do we have lunch at the same time? Maybe we may not. You know, we're different grades and whatever. But I understood what it felt like to not have any friends and to be kind of lonely and by myself. And luckily for me, I was good at sports and I was fast, and football season would come around and I would run really fast and I'd be like, whoa, that guy's fast. And I would hit hard, and I got friends quick because I was an athlete, but not everybody got that, but I was lucky to have that. So moving around a lot shaped me. Wrestling shaped me. I wrestled since 2nd grade, and I wrestled through college, and then I actually just started picking it back up again.
Yeah.
Which has been really fun. I had a couple of buddies that posted, or I saw them on Instagram posting about wrestling at the U.S. Open for old guys, and I was like, man, I should do that.
He's trying to do that? Try to get him.
Yeah, so last year, my last competitive college match was 2004, and then 2022 I wrestled at the U.S. Open. So 18 years later, I wrestled. I actually tore my labrum in my left shoulder in the first 25 seconds of my first match, and then I wrestled 11 matches in under like 22 hours, and I wasn't really in the best of shape. And my brother came down to coach me. There was four of the 4 brothers. My brother, just older than me, wrestled also. Oh, okay. And so he was like, dude, if you're doing it, I'll fly down and be your coach. I'm like, that's sweet, awesome. Dude, come be my coach. And he's like, Ashton, you've done I was a high school Heisman, and I did some other things like that were pretty cool in sports. Okay. I represented the United States when I was 15 at the World Championships in wrestling. Dude, you're like that cool kid. Yeah, but that's awesome. They're the sporty guy anyway. But he was like, dude, of all the things you've done, this was one of the most incredible things I've ever seen you do. Because as a 40-year-old wrestling all these matches and going the distance every single match, and I wrestled more matches than any of the other masters in the whole tournament. And anyway, it was a feat. But I was thinking it was just going to be a one and done thing, but my wife loved it, my kids loved it, and it was super cool because there aren't many 40-year-olds that dad's kicking butt too. Yeah, they're sure they get to see dad wrestle, right? Yeah. Or their wife gets to see their husband wrestle because there's no like pickup wrestling. So anyway, I'm training for the U.S. Open again this year, it's the end of April, and then I'm going to go to the World Championships. My goal is to make it on the world team and go to the World Championships in Croatia in October. Yeah. And if I'm going all the way to Croatia, I might as well win. Yeah, no, 100%. Go take it. Well, especially, the U.S. has a strong wrestling. We grew up in Ukraine in an orphanage. They when I was 10 or 11, Muay Thai became popular. And so as a gift to the city, whatever, they actually installed a gym in our orphanage. Oh, wow. So I used to breed. That's awesome. From like time wake up, right after school, because I had nothing else going on. Yeah. I lived in an orphanage. And then right before I go to bed. So I'd go up and we would compete in boxing and kickboxing and Muay Thai and travel, and just like we couldn't afford traveling. So, but the city where I'm from was like 2 million people. So I'll get my bloodthirst out, like just that's awesome. Different competitions. Yeah. So I love competing too. And
moved to the United States, I went to my first class, kickboxing, and the guy was training with a thumbs up. I'm like, dude, I'm done. Like, what is this guy?
Why? Because that's
No, it's like, yeah, it's the number one rule. It's like the proper way to hold your fist.
Oh.
So I was watching that. I was like, I'll kill this guy. Like, I'm done. And I was already tempered too. So I'm just like, I can't feel that thing again. So I pulled away because I used to be very aggressive, like naturally being competitive and being in that environment, fighting all the time. I'm just like, so that's the reason why we're getting in trouble. But
pulled out of that. Yeah.
So you went through, I assume you went on the mission, just following the brothers.
Yeah.
That kind of
yeah.
stuff.
And then kind of that fourth main one is that my love and desire to follow Jesus. Like that's shaped my whole life, man. And I really am trying to live my life like Jesus would live his life.
Which is not easy to do, especially
it's
nowadays.
not easy to do.
Yeah.
And there's, the hardest thing, and I don't know, I guess I don't know if it's the hardest thing, but is forgiveness is
To yourself or other people?
everywhere. Yeah. So yourself, you got to live with yourself all the time.
Right.
I served as a bishop for a little bit, which was an awesome experience. I was 33 years old
Wow.
and so a young bishop of a young single adult congregation, right? So
It's a big responsibility.
I was pretty similar in age to the people that I was talking to, which is kind of cool and crazy at the same time. But I learned there, there's lots of really impactful things, but one of the most impactful things that I learned there as a bishop was was how much Jesus just loves us. It's all about love.
Yeah.
All that he did was all about love. And when people would come in and confess things to me, I never felt an ounce of judgment. Like, you did what? Right? I never felt that once. 0 times I felt that. All that I ever felt was like just love, just an outpouring of love. And how could I think that I'm any different when I sin too?
Yeah.
When I mess up, I'm sure that but I got to live with myself, right?
Right.
But when I mess up, it's probably just like my experience of what I felt when I was a bishop, that God and Jesus are just like, hey man, you're good.
I
love you.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not that they condone sinning and doing things that you shouldn't be doing, but like, hey, you're human and that's part of the game. That's part of the process.
Yeah, that's interesting you said that, because growing up, our orphanage was placed right next to men's minister. So it's like Greek Orthodox was like everything there. And I hate going to church then. It's just like, I don't know, the whole ritual of kissing hand of the guy and how they manipulate money and that kind of stuff. Everybody knew how the corrupt church was there. So I never felt the need of God. But I always believed that God is eternal. Like, from the stories of the Bible, it made 0 sense to me that God would be done talking. And so when I moved to the United States and going through trials of my own and kind of being that broken vessel at that point, it's just like, I have loving family, but I don't get it. And then here's the crazy thing. We have 8 Ukrainian kids who don't speak any English. And out of all people, we have 2 Ukrainian missionaries get transferred to our board.
Wow.
Yeah. So we got to learn the gospel in our language.
Wow.
And so going through that experience, I'm like, there's no way, like, God is not aware of that. And then, of course, you go through the conversion story and feel guilty, and you're just like, man, how is it? Why me? Was there somebody else? There's so many other people. You feel guilty. That's why I went on the mission. I'm like, it's unfair to hold it to myself. But and the whole thing, how it happened too, is because, like, my brother, out of 4 of us, he was the first one to be baptized out of the group. So they baptized some kids. They were baptized everybody before the 8 they got there. But they weren't really active. And then the youngest 4 of the new group decided to be baptized. And I was actually ticked at my brother. I was like, dude, you're like trying to Americanize yourself. You don't need to do this, Sam. Like, we just got here. He's like, no, I really want to do this. I want to follow Jesus. That's what he said. I was like, it's like, good for you, man. And so going through his baptism, I mean, you've been part of this before. This becomes like a preaching podcast now, but that's kind of, I love the fact that it happens, But going through the experience, I was on fire. like I wanted to go in that tub and just cool off. And I was at that point I realized, like, okay, God did not stop talking, because I felt something I've never felt before. And so when I talked to the missionaries, the conversation was like, hey, no, God does speak, and here's the record. I'm like, I'm done. Like, give it to me. And so, but because of that, like you talked about, like knowing where to where I was, to the direction I was going, to where I am now, I do believe that is because I did look to the light of positivity in my life, and God became center of my life after. Like, everything I have is because of God.
Yeah.
Simple. My wife, met her in singles ward. My career started because of mission. Like, I learned how to be neglected and rejected and not being wanted and not being invited, all these different things on the mission. And then coming off of it, all my buddies were doing sales. I'm like, so it just kind of naturally breathed me into the person that I am today. So yeah. So So with you have 4 girls right now?
I got 4 daughters. Yeah.
Yeah. So how was that?
I love it.
Yeah, because I have 3. I have a daughter and then 2 sons.
Cool.
And so for us, it was like, oh, first time we had a kid, I was like, that's so easy. There was perfect. And then 2 boys came in. So with you, I wonder, like, how it is with running 4 girls versus, like, having the diversity of, like, being with brothers.
Yeah. So I had been planning my life around teaching my boys to wrestle.
Oh, okay.
And then God was like, you don't get to choose, man. And so
here's your card and deal with this.
Yeah, this is what you get. But I love it. Our first kid was a girl, and she's like super motherly and just warm and good, really good heart. And the second one, another girl, real athletic, got a heart of gold. And then I was hoping on the third one that it would be a boy. Mm-hmm. And God gave me the sweetest little third child. She's just like the epitome of pure. Mm. Just a pure soul from heaven that I get to walk around with every day. And then by the fourth one, I was like, man, let's just have another girl. We know how they work. Oh, that's cool. We got all the clothes. Our girls are awesome. Let's just do another girl.
Hoping there's not a boy now.
And then God bless us with a girl. Yeah, my wife was actually really hoping it wasn't a boy. I would be fine with either, but I was actually like expecting it to be a girl and thinking that it would be, and sure enough, it was. And she's a little fireball. Our last one, she's definitely got some fire in her. But I love it, dude. Being a dad is, I love my wife more than anything. Mm-hmm. I love God more than my wife. I love my wife more than my girls. But it's really close, man. My girls are they're so great. And I was asked over this last weekend, I went to a little men's retreat, kind of personal development retreat. I was asked a question: who are the top 5 most influential people in your life that have influenced you the most? And I initially thought of my mom and my dad and my wife. And then I was like, oh no, that only allows me to pick 2 out of my 4 daughters.
Yeah, it has to be a family, huh?
Right?
Yeah.
And I was like, sorry, Mom and Dad.
That's an easy choice.
I gotta go with all my kids. Or change the question and just say, who are the
more people,
7 most influential people in your life, Because how I live is a lot of how my parents live. I was up at their place last week or 2 weeks ago, and there was in my dad's office. It's no longer there, but it's in one of their rooms that they have. It's now like a guest room. My dad had written out, and I remember going into his office all the time and seeing it, and it says, I am what I am today because of what my parents are every day.
Oh.
And I think that was a reminder to my dad in his office about his parents. But I looked at it as a kid, and my point of reference is him.
Yeah.
And now for sure as a parent, I'm like, every day I got to be on and I got to be good.
Yeah.
I can't have any slack days because my kids will be what they are because of what me and my wife are every day. And you can build a solid reputation for years and years and years and lose it fast. Mm. And the most important person to not lose it with is your kids, right? And if I say one thing but do another, that doesn't go very good.
Well, they have
Right.
a memory of an elephant too.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you say, you said, Dad, you said. Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So that's a question for you. Obviously, that's what interested me for personal reason. How do you balance all of that? Because obviously you can't neglect one or the other. We know that how the balance works in this, especially in our job, right? How important it is to have the KZine is what I call it, and the whole thing. Everything has to work together.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Yeah. So I talk a lot about work-life harmony, not work-life balance, because it's really about having harmony in the house, not balance. Because I'm going to work more than I do just about anything.
Right.
Right. And that's okay. That's a good thing. I need to provide for my family, want to provide for my family. I want to show my kids to what hard work looks like and all those things, right? As they get older, it looks a little different. I have my little kids still, and I'm going to be so sad when this stops happening, dude. But I come home and I'll have a little whistle. So where our house is, or if I show up to a place where they're at, I'll just whistle. And they'll know that it's my whistle, right? When I show up at home, or if they're upstairs and I whistle, they'll come running. My two little ones still just come running, man. And that pureness of them running and daddy's home, and just running and grabbing you. I don't know that there's many better things in the world than that. And so my younger ones still do that. My older ones don't, but I'll do it to my older ones because I'm like, you should still be doing this to me. So I'll go up to Hallie and be like, Hallie,
Reverse.
I'm home. Yeah. Jane, I'm home. And I'll kind of run to them and give them a big squeeze.
How old is she?
14.
14, yeah.
Yeah.
Mine is 7. So it starts to be that transition of like, you're cool, but okay, some things are not cool.
Right. Yeah. I'm not listening to you all the way. So anyway, the harmony, the work-life harmony, and then having those relationships, one of my goals every day is to have a meaningful connection with each of my kids before 10 a.m. So my most sacred hour of the day is from 6:45 to 7:45 every day. Yeah, you won't really get a text message, or I won't answer my phone or anything from me in that time frame, because I'm waking up my kids, I'm making them breakfast, and we're hanging out. And I'm looking at them in the eye, and they're looking at me in the eye, and we talk about life, and we crack jokes, and they ask me to tell stories, and that sometimes, depending on my workload, depending on what's going on, that's my whole experience with them the whole day.
Yeah.
1 hour, right? And then I get them ready for school and take them to the bus or drive them to school or whatever. But that 1 hour is so important for me and for them, right? It's so important for me and for them to make sure that we're connecting and having a meaningful connection, not just a conversation, right? And the same thing goes with my wife. By 10 a.m. every day, meaningful connection with myself, with my mind, and with my body, 2 different components, with each one of my kids, and with my wife and my God. And if I can do all of that by 10 a.m., like I've had a full day.
Yeah, you can run through walls after.
Everything else after that is fantastic, right? And some of the other ways that I try to keep good balance and harmony with my kids and my wife is I go on a date night with my wife every week, and I go on a date with each one of my kids every month. So once a week. It used to be every Tuesday because that's how our schedules lined up, that it worked for that. It doesn't work like that anymore. It's a little more sporadic. But every single month, I take my girls out and we go on a date, and they look forward to it, and I look forward to it. And it's put my phone away. I'm locking eyes, and I'm talking to them about everything. And my dad, growing up, I wrestled, and we would go on wrestling trips to these small little towns in Kansas, all across Kansas. And on the way home, he would ask me the same question every day, every time. He'd say, do you want to talk about girls or do you want to talk about wrestling? And really what he was trying to do was just connect with me. And that was the question that he asked. Do you want to talk about girls or do you want to talk about wrestling? And most of the time I talk about wrestling because I just got done with wrestling. But we'd talk about school and we talk about whatever else. But that was just his way of saying, son, I want to connect with you right now. And so I was on a date with my daughter once, and I was trying to ask how life was. Like, so what's going on at school, and how are your friends? And yeah, good. And it was just really, really short. And then she started. We were outside on the trampoline. She was looking up, and I'd ask her a question. She'd say stars, And I'd say, well, what about, how's your teacher? Moon. And she just kept answering like what she was seeing. And so I said, Jane, do you want to talk about boys life, or do you want to talk about the galaxy? And she said the galaxy. So I was like, cool, why don't we download an app? And I downloaded a little app, it's a star app, and we were looking and trying to find the Mars and Mercury and Jupiter and all that stuff. But I've tried to use that question in other dates as I've gone on to like my dad used, do you want to talk about girls or wrestling? Is like, hey, I want to talk about some meaningful stuff. Important, yeah. And it's funny about the stars is I haven't really been into outer space. And I think and my wife's like, it's not a waste of time. Your cell phone works because of outer space. But I think there's a lot of like, why do we need to know these things way out in the middle of, 100 light years away?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why we need to know that. And maybe I'm just crazy naive, but can we just work on something right here? Like that in front of us. That's right in front of us. I think
that's just the way the life is now too. Everything is progressing so fast. People forget this. To take care of the surroundings.
Stuff right in front of you.
Yeah. That's why this is the new thing that just suck all the life out of you.
Yeah.
No, it's curious because for me, like I have 3 kids now. I have 8-month-old, who is a handful. I have 4 and 7, and kind of like you too. Like I have to get up at 4:30. I have a gym at home. That's a fortunate thing. That's my time for myself.
Yeah.
If I don't do that, like I have to forget about doing stuff for myself. And because then at 6 o'clock, my 8-month-old is up and he's in the gym with me. And we have that one-on-one playing and cuddling or whatever.
Yeah.
And then, but the time we're done with him, then my other ones start to wake up and they're ready for breakfast for school. I have 2nd grader. So intentionally, I try to do that same thing. The one that's unfortunately for me, like, and I'm a bum for that too, is my wife. It's kind of becomes that, not the last, but the last out of all of them. Because by the time like I take care of them, and then by the time I come back from work, our times is like she just beat, with the 3 younger kids.
Yeah.
So finding that time, and like I have intention to be the best husband possible. But sometimes I'm like, dude, I'm doing something wrong because I know I can give more.
Yeah.
And this job, obviously, working in the same industry, it's really hard to have a structured schedule because your schedule kind of moves around people.
Right. You get paid if you answer the phone and go see them.
Annoying.
You don't get paid if you don't.
Yeah, and the thing is, my wife, like, I met her at my 3rd year of school. I was going through accounting finance. But more just whatever classes girls were in. No, it was annoying because I was going through like 2 degrees at the same time. By the time I figured that out, I was like spending all this money. But she went to do summer sales with me, and she hated the whole thing. But she knew that I was passionate about it.
Yeah.
So on my last year of doing pest control, I did 4 years of pest control paid for school. We moved back to Utah, and an opportunity to come to solar. Company called Sun Edison. They invited us over to San Diego and said, "Hey, you guys have a sales force here. We need to open the residential market for our company. We'd love to connect with you guys." And she was all bought in real quick. It was non-negotiable. She's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna stay here, do school. You go figure it out." Always been supportive like that, and that's even cool. Now, like, we'll be married for 10 years in May. Anytime I was big ambitious, she's like, we were just talking about this yesterday. She's like, I remember first time we sat with our accountant, and true story too. Like, first year being married, she hasn't seen what I made yet. And the accountant's question was like, "Okay, Sasha, this is what you made so far. What are you gonna make this year?" I was like, $1 million. She looked at me, she's like, "What?" I was like, $1 million. He's like, "Okay." So ever since, never questioned. Always like, if whatever number she throws up, he's gonna get it, because I've always been like that kind of person, like just going for it.
Yeah.
And yeah, like seeing how you spend time delegate that to everybody and not missing anybody, like, it helps me to kind of see like I need to maybe have some structure with that too, because dates, because the little ones, our dates are when they're in bed.
Yeah.
And my wife and I are suckers for trusting people. We don't trust anybody sitting our kids, like even her parents. Like, it's just like, always like texting and how are they doing? And they're all in Bakersfield, but the only ones in this side too. So, but it's been interesting to see like how our dates and the idea of what the date is changed too.
Yeah. See, it's so crucial to do it though, even if it is just a stay-at-home date, like a dedicated time. You know, kids, you can watch a movie. Mom and dad are going to go just talk. We're going to go outside. We're going to sit down. We're going to go for a walk. We're going to, you know, whatever. But to have that like pure connection. I was in a Sunday school class. My wife and I joke around about it often. It was really impactful for both of us. We'd been married not that long, and we were visiting her mom. And so one of my wife's, I think he must have been a youth leader of hers, was given the lesson. And he said that me and my wife, we lived our lives kind of parallel, not necessarily like together, like with all of our kids going on. It was more of a travel log, like you go take this kid and I'll take this kid and we'll do those things. And he's like, and then when they left, we realized we weren't like united. We just kind of had been living parallel lives. Yeah. And it was a little bit of getting used to each other after the kids had already gone and stuff. But he's like, what I wish I would have done is lived together and really been united that whole time instead of just trying to live parallel lives. And sometimes as you get busier and the kids get older and there's more activities and more things, and then work gets a little stressful because you realize you got to pay for weddings and college, and you got things that you got to save up for, and you want to have your own goals as well. It's like, man, there's actually a lot here. Yeah. There's a lot going on, but that where people lose their most important earthly relationship, which is their relationship with their spouse, is they get caught up in the money, or that they live a parallel life and don't live a united life.
Yeah.
And it's easy to do, right? It's actually really hard to have a meaningful conversation. So when I say I'm trying to have a meaningful connection, it's to have a meaningful connection with my wife every day is more than just like, so how was it yesterday and where did you guys go? And right, that's living a parallel life, not like, so how are you feeling? Right. Like, what have you been studying in the scriptures that you love? How's your family doing? Have you had any meaningful connections with any of your friends? What are they up to? Right. And asking more like more in-depth questions. But also not just
hear, but I should listen to you.
And then listening. Yeah. And being there with them. So that, again, it's meaningful, not just a conversation, just living a parallel life. And so,
yeah, I feel like from my experience, my wife and I have known a lot of people in the period that we've been married, been divorced, married. And I don't know why that is, but we're not the perfect followers of Christ, which is we're all trying to be, right?
Right.
But our foundation was that we met at church, and regardless how different we may be, which I'm in the greediest profession that could be, surrounded by people who thrive to make money, and money is everything.
Right.
Your success measured by what you make and how you spend it and what you drive and all that kind of stuff. But then on the other hand, you go home and you have someone who values you differently, who sees you successful being attentive dad or attentive husband and like cleaning the kitchen and dishes, simple stuff, right? I think sometimes like you said, we're overlooked that and have tendencies of kind of focusing on something that's way ahead and not so much what's around us
here.
Now. Yeah. So you went through from 2009 to 14 in Dish, right? Selling Dish.
I sold satellites from 2005 to 2008.
Oh, okay.
And then alarm systems from 2008 to 2010.
Okay.
And then I moved to San Diego to start some businesses with my brother. And then I got roped back. I did a carpet recycling business and cement powder business, kind of some weird off the wall businesses. I know way more about carpet than I've ever wanted to know about carpet. And inhaled more dust and dirt and cat pee, and I didn't inhale cat pee, but the smell of it and all the carpet is so bad. But I did that for a year, kind of paid my tuition to School of Hard Knocks. I lost a ton of money. I didn't make any money living in expensive San Diego. Invested all this money into the carpet recycling business, was my main business, and lost it all. And didn't have to file bankruptcy, but I had signed a personal guarantee on a warehouse, and I called the landlords and was just like, look, it's not working. And I know I signed a personal guarantee, but if you make me exercise a personal guarantee, I'm gonna have to file bankruptcy and move on. And they're like, hey, good try. We're not gonna, you're good. They let us off, and I was so grateful. But so I did that for a year, and then I sold LED lighting for a year, and then I did a business networking kind of high-end chamber of commerce type of experience for
the timeline of doing all that. Were you married already at that time, or you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got married 2 years in.
Okay.
My second summer, my now wife lived in Maryland for half the summer. Then she moved to Albuquerque, and my home teacher from BYU, so a guy that lived right by me, lived 2 miles from where my apartment was in Albuquerque. And I was like, hey, dude, could my fiance come live at your guys' place? And I'd been doing Sunday dinner with them and stuff anyway. And they're like, yeah, totally. So that was really lucky that we had that. So she was with me in my sales career essentially from my second year. My first year, she was just around. Yeah. But she's been with me ever since then. So
how does she handle? Because obviously from a guy's perspective, you're like, especially if you're just locked in and determined, you're like, I'm going to make this thing happen. Especially from like sports competitive guy.
Yeah.
I see guys who make it and like, I'm better than them. It's always like the size there, right? So like from her perspective, why did she stuck with sales career for you? Have you guys had that kind of conversation?
Well, she has wanted to she's wanted to help me be happy, make me be happy, and whatever makes me happy makes her happy. And so she'll support me kind of in whatever, not kind of in whatever, in everything. She'll support me in everything, which is such a blessing. But she's used to like the 100% commission life. And a couple of years ago, we had a financial challenge, and I'd invested some money in Ponzi scheme, and it went really south, and it was a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And she had inspiration of trust Ashton. Trust that Ashton knows how to make money. And she told me that Ashton, I trust that you know how to make more money, and we'll be fine because you can figure it out. And she's really educated. She's got a master's degree. So she could go get a degree. Her master's, her undergraduate was in marriage, family, and human development, and then her master's was in family recreation because she wanted to do some sort of family studies as a PhD. And she was like, recreation sounds like a fun stepping stone to get to there, you know. But she could teach at the college right by her house and make great money as a master's because of her master's degree. But she's like, all of my studies have said that it's best to stay at home with your kids, not work. If you can help it, and not everybody can help it, but I feel super blessed that so far in my career, I've been able to earn enough that she can stay at home. And she also feels like it's just not the right time, but she'll totally go back to teaching or research or something. She loves it. Yeah, she loves it, and she'll get there. But she supports me. She understands. She knows I have the ability to make money. We'll figure out how to make good money for our family. And I think a lot of it is also just like callous. When new people come into the industry, they're like, "You don't have a paycheck you can count on? What the heck?" And she's like, "Yeah, I mean, you just got to go knock on more doors." Yeah. And
that's one thing I like about this industry. I've since the United States, my first experience for like a year at W2, and I hated the whole thing because I'm like, to make a certain amount, I have to die here for 12 hours. They don't really care how productive I am, how task oriented I am. And then so when the job was initially, I was parking cars in Salt Lake, making $20 a night, splitting tips with everybody. And he's like, you can go in the summer making so much money. I was like, wait, what? He's like, yeah, it's all sell based. So the more you sell, the better. Like, I don't know how to sell, but I'll outwork everybody. I'll learn how. Yeah. And that's one thing I love about this job too, is just you can turn it up and turn it down also, but you can bet on yourself. Yeah, yeah. And same story with my wife too. Like, we've been in spots before. We had bet partnerships. We had different companies that were not fulfilling, on different reps that were burn us and that kind of stuff. But she never doubted that we'll be fine. Yeah. It's kind of funny how it works.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like,
That's a blessing to have a wife that will do that, right? We're both blessed because some wives like, no.
some would be like, yeah, go get a job, right?
Yeah. I need to have consistent money and I need that Prada bag. And I,
Yeah, yeah, that's the other thing too.
and my wife's definitely sacrificed a lot for us to be in the position that we're in, you know?
Yeah, and that's, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting how it turns out. But obviously, so with your career, where you at now with Legacy, by the way, stellar company. Why Legacy? Why not like, I don't know, Sunrun or 2,500 companies that we do compete with every day?
Yeah. Legacy for me, man. Legacy is a super solid company. The few reasons Legacy. I feel like I love and know and trust the leadership at the top, and they're running a good business. No debt, like super methodical about the way they've gone about business. Like we started doing our own installs a couple of years ago. Probably could have or should have done our own installs years earlier, but it wasn't. They wanted to make sure for sure this was a good idea for our reps and for our business, and other things where we may have been maybe a little slow to move in some regards, but some of the slowness has actually been very safe for us because we're not biting off more than we can chew. But we've grown. We're big, man. We're probably top 3 largest privately held solar companies in the country. Top 3, top 4, I don't know, somewhere in that.
Well, you guys picking up this team too,
and yeah, like we've this year already. We've in the first, not even the first full 2 months of the year, we onboarded 1,000 new reps. Wow. That's awesome, right? And we've got the infrastructure now. We've got this solid base that we can add 1,000 reps and add a lot of volume and not be overwhelmed. Like there isn't anybody that's like, we gotta stop. We gotta stop.
We got the footing already in.
Yeah, like ready, set, go. We've got this. So the and then I also feel the culture within Legacy companies, people leave cultures, right, or managers, not necessarily like companies, and the culture that we have is a really fun culture. It's also one of like growth. The very first, and I hope that I've contributed to some of it. One of the things that I share sometimes in old cultures and alarm or pest control cultures, if you're going head to head against somebody in a sales competition, they're the devil, and you hate them, and you want to beat them up, you know. And our very first major sales competition, I was going toe to toe with a guy, and I got 5 on the last day, and that was the first time that I'd ever gotten 5, and that wasn't really like, that's still a big deal today if you got 5, but it was a really big deal.
I have yet to
back
get
then.
5.
Yeah,
I've had 4 like consistently, but 5 is
5. It's eluded you.
Yeah.
So my first 5 spot, and they announced the winner, and I got second, and I immediately called the guy that got first. And in old cultures, it would be like, you cheated. Yeah, you
prove
lied.
It.
Yeah, prove it. Like, you didn't do all that, right? And instead, the call was, hey, dude, thank you so much. You pushed me further than I've ever been pushed. I got more sales in this last week than I've ever got. I got more sales in a day than I've ever got. I got 5 on Saturday. I thought that was going to get me to the top. But thank you, man, for pushing me to be better than what I was. And he was like shocked because he had come from the same kind of cutthroat background where that's not the conversation that's normally had. Conversations normally, you liar.
Yeah, I feel like that's the industry in general start to kind of mold that way, right? I don't know if maybe the guys matured and they realize more like, I'm treating this as a career, and as long as we benefit people, the return is like, it's good for people if you do good business, obviously. But
there's so much opportunity. There's so much. Like we're in a really saturated place in California, and there's still hundreds of companies.
Well, I think it's easier to sell
thousands of reps, and everybody's been knocked on their door and talked to at least 10 times, but it's still all a crazy amount of opportunity.
Yeah, right. I run through a challenge of this now where I can onboard guys that buy into the paycheck, they make the paycheck and they clock out, and it's we just had a training this morning. It's like they have the vision of what they want, And sometimes they get that and then that's it. Like it's not tiered. Or they have the vision, but they focus on where they at so much of what they want to be versus where they should be. And so the disconnect in between a lot of times is what the person just gives up on themselves.
Yeah.
How do you guys retain people that go through that simulation of like, I'm here and I want to be here. I'm gunning for here, but I'm not really taking care of anything here at this point.
Yeah.
How do you
A couple of things, man. The way that I like to manage people is, and I tell them that I'm going to manage them off of their potential is not where they are right now, and ask for their permission. Say, look, this is how I like to operate. You're right here right now. I think that you can be here. I think your potential's here. I'd prefer to manage you and help you based off of this than this. What one are you okay with? Which one? And every time they're like, oh, dude, yeah, I can get there. I want to get there. Like, okay, so if I see things that aren't in alignment with that, you're okay with me calling that out? And we're friends, but I also want to make sure that I'm helping you the most. And sometimes it's going to feel like sandpaper for me to call you out on some stuff. Yeah. You okay with that? Yeah, I'm okay with that. So some sort of an agreement up front when you're talking to reps. And the cool thing is, the principle I teach is start right to stay right to end right. And if you start right, it's a lot easier to stay right, and it's a lot easier to end right. If you don't start right, it's actually harder to end right, right? If you're involved with drugs, or your parents are drug addicts as a kid, or you don't have a very good start,
right. It's
actually really statistically a lot less likely that you're going to end in a really great place. Not that it's not possible, but it's just harder, right? But the cool thing about the principle is that you can start right each day. You can start right each month. You can start right each hour. You can say, okay, that ended. That attitude ended. That old me ended. I'm going to start right now, and I'm going to start right now.
Yeah.
And then it's going to help me end right better because the first half of my day sucked, and I'm going to say it's over. Close that chapter, and now I'm going to start right, and I'm going to move on. Yeah. And so, with reps that are kind of struggling a little bit, when reps come in, I'll have that upfront kind of contract, upfront conversation of, this is how I manage people. Are you okay with me doing that?
Setting the standard.
Yeah. And then, but if I haven't done that with somebody, then I'll teach the principle, start right, stay right, end right. And I'll ask for their permission for us to be done and end that previous chapter. And let's start right now. And then now I've taught a principle to them that they can grasp. And then I ask for their permission can we just start over? Can we have a new start today? And that's going to help us to end right. And sometimes that'll kick people in the pants and get them going. Another thing that I'll do, and it really does happen, our industries, we're so blessed in solar. If you're in sales and you're not in solar, you're in the wrong place. 100%. But the thing that happens sometimes with people is they make a bunch of money, and then they make so much money they're like, dude, I could live off of this for like 3 months, and then they stop working. Yeah. And the cure for that, I don't know that's completely a cure, but the cure for that is to change the end zone or the finish line to different than the money. And sales to me has just become a sport, right? I wrestled in high school and college. I represented the United States when I was 15. I'm planning to represent the United States when I'm 42, right? And like wrestling has been a big part of my life, and sports has been a big part of my life. I played football and soccer and ran track, and I just have loved sports. So if you can pivot the outcome of the money today to let's go compete and let's make this a sport, the money comes if you get the sales and the installs. But if you're competing to get 3 or 5 in a month and your buddy beats you to it, because he beats you to it, he gets a massage that he doesn't have to pay for. Dude, I want the massage. Yeah. I'm going to be the first one to get to 5. And if that's the frame, instead of getting, one deal and like $5,000 or $10,000 and like, I don't actually need to go work anymore. It's like, no. I'm only at 1. I need to get to 5 because there's a free massage on the line. I mean, sales guys, or at least me, I'll work my guts out for a shirt that I could buy like 1,000 times. but because somebody gave it to me for free, it's more not necessarily that they gave it to me for free, but it's my trophy.
Yeah.
Right. I've been with Legacy since day one. So I've got some OG shirts that I won.
Yeah.
And I'll wear them sometimes. And it's like, I'm feeling like the man, cause no one's got this shirt anymore. And I won this, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was my championship trophy. So with reps, you can reteach, start right, stay right, end right. And or you can help them transition their frame to let's make this a game, let's make this a sport, and the winner
So gamified
has to do gamify. It has to do a certain thing, right? And that thing, as reps get better, that the goalpost changes. It's not always going to be 5, right? Once you've broken that barrier, you can do 6. You can do 5, dude.
Yeah.
I know you can do 5 in a day. Once you hit that 5 in a day, you'll probably hit 5 in a day.
Yeah.
Again.
Well, 4 is not a standard anymore.
In a little while,
yeah,
right?
Standards change.
Because you've now done that. So
yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, the one thing I was going to ask about that too. So besides that, you hear the reps in the industry have tendency of blaming everybody besides themselves, the ego part of it, right? Mm-hmm. Where it's like, I'm not where I am because of this person. I'm not where I am because this company doesn't pay me or doesn't do my job, doesn't install my jobs or whatever. How do you guys deal with grasshoppers? And so by meaning they just jump around, whatever's greener, they're always moving around, right? So because the biggest thing that I'm kind of burned with, and I've done this for a while, you delegate time with intention to help. We lose time knowing that I can maximize me 100%. If I dedicate time same towards the rep versus myself, I'll be more productive doing myself.
Right.
So it's a sacrifice in a way by delegating that time to the rep initially, knowing that you're not benefiting very much, if any, to help them, to get them going, to talk about structure and discipline and schedule and, doing the right business, do good business so you can be proud of seeing people later and not just hiding and ducking when you see them. And then they have grasshopper pop, where you're giving them that time and they hop. Like, is there a way to call it out early or set up a system to prevent that?
Probably, yeah. The part of it, I heard a quote once that was like, something to the effect of, well, why would I want to put all this money and energy and effort into this person if they're just going to eventually leave me? And that person was like, well, what if we didn't put all of this time, energy, and attention to this person and they stayed?
Oh.
Then you're in a bad spot.
Yeah.
Right? So the risk reward, it's better to put time, energy, and effort into people and help them know that you're in it for the long haul and you want them to be in it for the long haul. But understanding people aren't going to work for us forever. If I bring somebody on today, I know they're probably not going to work with me until I retire.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's going to be a couple that will be that way, but and it is difficult because you get people that jump around. If I have somebody that wants to jump to me, let me just kind of talk to that. I'll ask them about their history a little bit, where you're going, and I'll ask the question. So, sounds like you're in a great place. Why would you leave? And if they tell me they're leaving because my manager was this or my blah, blah, a little bit of blame. That tells me a lot about somebody. Versus if I ask that question and they say something like, well, I just feel like I feel like solar is the industry to be in. I've been selling alarms. I've been selling pest control. I've been selling these other things.
Trying to progress.
And I see that solar is the place to go. That's a different response than blaming my manager for a bunch of things, right? Mm. And if I hear that they've moved around a lot, and I understand that, I'm definitely not giving any kind of signing bonus or any kind of like upfront deals that happen sometimes. No way.
Yeah.
All that I'm doing is I'm saying, listen, I've got a really great culture. I've got a really great company. We do good by all of our reps. Now let's get after it. And you'll make money quick here if you just put your nose down and get after it. Well, these other guys, they were offering me like $10,000. And like, okay, well, that's cool. Yeah. Maybe you got to take that $10,000. With me, you're going to get stability. You're going to get longevity. You're going to get somebody that actually cares about who you are and what you're doing. And if you just need that extra quick $10,000 without putting any work in, then that's not me.
Yeah, well, that $10,000 is gonna be another $10,000 after 2 weeks somewhere else. I've been with this before too. True story. I mean, when I got into solar, I was with Sun Edison, and they were rent for like 6 months. After 6 months, they're like, "We're done. We're going back to commercial." You're like, shoot, man. They can't finish the jobs. The commissions were just locked. Good friend of mine from a mission was working in Solar City, and he was like, "Hey, call one of our offices here. They have a bonus structure." I was broke too because I was paying for the reps, and so he was like, "Just go. They have a bonus structure. If you hit it all, you get it." Well, we're making like $135 a kilowatt.
Yeah.
Talking about the difference of reps then to now too was like, you walk in the room and everybody's studying on their own, learning and keeping secrets because they want to progress faster, right? But anyways, my sign-on bonus was having a structure in a company when you walk in. Can they support me and give me to the next level that I haven't been yet?
Right.
And in our industry, it's more about what's the red line? How quick can I get my installs? Not the vision of like, how far can I get with you guys? Or which direction are you going and how can I plug myself now so I can plow with you?
Right.
It's just an interesting perspective. I think I don't know if it's the generation or just people that we're running into, because there are obviously people like you who have that mentality of vision long term and the why tiered in more than just one. And that's the reason probably why you still lock in and working, pushing the pace and setting the standard.
Yeah.
And refining yourself on a daily basis. So, but no, it's been a pleasure to get to know you, man. I'm excited to have this relationship moving forward for sure.
Yeah.
To kind of see like how you running from the gospel, which we're very much alike in that too, because like God is the center of everything, then family second, obviously, and then the job that we have is more like a supplement to feed everything that we are about.
For sure.
And the fact that we can make a career out of it and be attentive and all of those things is have an opportunity to have a good balance. Not a balance. Harmony.
Some good harmony
with all of it. It's like I'm just blessed to have that. So I appreciate you for coming in here.
Yeah.
And hopefully this was, hearing some of it, I think you saw the outlet of it, right? Of some people can go through things that are maybe not as positive, and a lot of times they attach themselves. Like, here's the last thing I'll end with. Growing up in orphanage, a lot of my friends were in the past were like, poor orphan, poor me, poor me. So we had natural hatreds towards families. We would go to summer camp and you see kids getting dropped off by parents. We're like, this kid, I'm going to hit him tonight. I'm going to take everything he has. And it's just always been that way, like growing up with that. And it's just because of the orphanage. You just have that environment of like, nobody cares. And so why would I care? Because of that, a lot of my friends went on that path. And it got to the point where they got locked up for life or hurt people or kill people and that kind of stuff. For whatever reason, and I don't know why, maybe because I was the oldest, I took a path of like, I deal with the same, but I believe there's perspective. Like, I can suffer for a little bit, but it's not. That doesn't mean to be forever.
Right.
And I think because of that, it's just like helped me to see more. And even now in sales too, like going through this now, you go through hard months where you don't want to be here. And you just like, people are annoying or rejecting, whatever.
Yeah.
But you know the end.
Hard days, hard weeks, hard months. Yeah.
But having that positive feed on a daily basis, knowing that if you just focus on it, you're going to find it. It's like it has been the main drive for me. So,
yeah. That's awesome. You have that attitude, dude. I'm a believer in that. Positive attitude is not wishful thinking.
Yeah.
It's looking for the good, and your life is just better if you're always looking for good.
Well, yeah,
instead of looking for bad.
It's like a manifestation, right? So you manifest to yourself. Like if I truly believe that, and that's my standard, I can achieve that. And maybe it's just with a wife, I think helps, because my wife super encouraging and supportive. In the times when I make him come back home and tired and whatever, she finds a way in energy to kind of keep me going. And then some of the people you surround yourself with, and meeting good customer, that appreciative and loves you, and that kind of like. So, but anyways, so there's more good in life, I think, than the negative. Negative things is temporary, but a lot of times people forget that the inside, especially if God is in your life, it's intended to be good. So, so anyways, thanks for coming by.
Yeah,
Appreciate you, man.